Alright, in today's video we're going to go over the general assembly of the Powermatic 64V table saw. I did do a little bit of this prior to the video, fairly straightforward. If you want to go through the instructions, it'll lead off with putting the stand together. The biggest thing on that is to not tighten the bolts that are on the stand. So all the bolts here, cross members, you'll want to leave that until you put the top half on. There's a lot of weight to this, and that'll let the legs settle wherever they're going to go. Once you get that on, there's 4 bolts, in one in each corner. So you can't see them, they're on the inside. Once you get those bolts in and tightened down, then you'll want to tighten the bolts that are on the stand. And that'll hold it in that shape. The hand wheels are real straightforward. You got a knob to hold the wheel on, and then on the back there's a slot that fits right over a pin. I should show the handle. On the handle, on the base, there's a couple of flat grooves here. That is where you put a wrench, so you can tighten this handle down to the wheel. You can still turn this freely without that moving, so that's really nice. Alright, it's up to you if you want to leave these brackets for the miter gauge and the fence. You can put them on last, doesn't really matter. Not too much with those. So the next step here is going to be putting on the wings on the table saw. Alright, now once you have the wings on, we'll have to not fully tighten them yet, but we're going to have to align it to the centerpiece so that both the front is flush and the top is flush. It's easier with 2 people, but if you're working alone, you'll just have to go little by little. I can lift some of this up by hand and tighten it, but if you need, use a rubber mallet. To help align the top of the table, make sure it's flat, you can use a straight edge like I have here. You can use a square. So this is something you just got to do little by little until you get it lined up. Find it easier if you have them all a bit loose and start at one of the ends, and you can use that as a pivot point. Start with the back, then lift up the front and align it. So that's hitting. I'll have to bring the front of it up a little bit. Not much. Alright, so next, once you get the wings on, you have it flush to the top best you can, and to the front and back. Mine is close, but you can still feel just a hair there, but I can't get it any better. Like that. So after the tabletop is done, again, you can use some denatured alcohol. And then I did coat mine with paste wax, the kind that I used. is tree wax. I thought it worked pretty good, so used it before. After that, we'll go ahead and we'll put on the rail for the fence. I've got the first one put on right now. I found it easiest to put the screws into the angle iron first, then push it on, and then it kind of holds itself. You can get the washers and nuts on after. And speaking of the washers and nuts, mine were inside of the tube that it came with. I thought it was missing, but they were actually inside, probably about a couple of feet. So that wasn't the best trying to get those out, but once that's out, then it should be ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to tighten these down, and then we'll go to the next step. So when you're putting on the front rail, you'll want to make them snug. The 4 bolts that go in the front, you want to make sure that those are snug, but that you can adjust it still by hitting the rail back and, not so much back and forth, but up and down. Because what you'll want is to make sure that it's level with the tabletop, or parallel. So right there, that's about touching. Then putting that same square farther down, it's the same. After that step, you'll go to the back rail. The height doesn't matter on this, but you'll put that into the corresponding spot and tighten it down. All right, when you install the guide tube, that's the next piece. You'll want to make sure that it's an equal distance away from the top of the table. Check that in multiple places so it's parallel. After that, then we'll start looking at the fence itself and looking at getting the tape measure aligned. Alright, so finishing up on the fence installation, I first took off the tape measure that was on it. I cleaned the rail with denatured alcohol. I installed the blade. And I also squared up the fence, so both to the blade and to the table, using the set screws on the top and on the front. So when that is done, then we will now look at installing the tape. Alright, so with the fence now touching the blade, we will put a mark on the guide tube with the center of the scale, making sure that we have room to adjust the scale back and forth if we need to in the future. So next, using that mark, I'll start the tape measure at 0 and apply it to the tube. Alright, well, I got the tape installed. Wasn't too bad. It's fairly stiff, so it doesn't move around much. Yeah, that should about wrap the video up. Just wanted to go over a couple things now that it's complete. The miter gauge is very nice. There's no plastic that I can tell aside from maybe on the handles here, but this is heavy duty, so that's nice to see, not a cheap plastic one. I'm not going to go over all the riving knives and getting that set up. However, one thing to note on the riving knives, the previous video, I don't know if you can see this. The thickness of the blade that can be on it has to be 2.8 to 3.5 millimeters. I got an 1/8" blade, so I know I'm covered. The motor cover, real simple to install. However, there is a knob right here. You have to fully remove it to open up the cover. It's kind of a pain and wish it had a latch, but not a big deal. Another thing that I ran into was the bolt that holds the switch to the guide tube. That slot was a little bit short, so I had to file it out, about 1/16 of an inch. But once you do that, then there's enough room there for it to slide up tight. Otherwise, it was a little bit tight up here. On the other side, I noticed that when I put on the crank here for the moving the blade left or right, it was very rough. And I noticed that if you over tighten this knob, this bushing here that it rides up against, that was pretty tight. So I did have to loosen the knob a little bit. And then I put a little bit of WD-40 in where that pin is so it can lube up in there. And yeah, so now it's great. So that wasn't a problem. All right, well, that's all I have for today. And in the future video, I am going to be making a, what do they call them, a portable cart or something. So I'll put this saw on one of those so I can move it around. I'll probably make it out of steel. But yeah, other than that, that's it for today. Thank you for watching. If you liked the video, give us a like. Thanks. Have a great day.